think they've got more than a chance to win. I'm going out on a limb right now and saying Nebraska will win against Michigan. This is another video where you get to see my dog Pretzel. We're at the park, and Pretzel's very excited to be at the park, and he sees squirrels and rabbits and other dogs. So if you hear a little barking or sniffing, it's because of Pretzel. All right, Pretzel, roam free. Sort of. I got him on his leash. Well, if you watched the Nebraska-Michigan game, then you understand why it is I'm about to say, and if you watched my preview video, then you totally understand why I'm about to take credit again for getting it right. It's hard to believe that 2 videos in a row, I'm gonna say I told you so. Because I don't like to do that. I don't like to be the I told you so guy. But in this case, I told you so. I understand if you watch the video, you may recall me saying that I thought Nebraska would win the game. Well, that's fair enough. Interesting thing though, people sometimes hear what they want to hear, and for those of you who think I said Nebraska would win, I've seen some of the comments. Someone said that didn't age well, and you know, someone also posted, because in my last video I said Nebraska over the last so many games since Oklahoma last year, they were 5-7. Someone commented 5-8 now or something like that. So I get it. You think I said Nebraska was going to win. Well, what did I actually say? And if Nebraska can play defense against Michigan the way they played in the first 4 games, I think they've got more than a chance to win. I'm going out on a limb right now and saying Nebraska will win against Michigan. What I actually said was that if Nebraska plays defense like they did in the first 4 games, and if Nebraska can play defense against Michigan the way they played in the first 4 games, then I think they're going to win. I think they've got more than a chance to win. I'm going out on a limb right now and saying Nebraska will win against Michigan. If they play defense, you'll notice I didn't talk about the offense. Well, by the way, we'll get in a moment to why I didn't talk about the offense. We didn't talk about the offense. I didn't talk about penalties. I didn't talk about turnovers. I didn't talk about clock management. I didn't talk about anything more than the defense. And as it happens, I was right. I mean, I was right in that if they don't play good defense in that game, they're not going to win. More accurately, if they had played good defense, I thought that they would win. But the one thing that we all had come to count on this year was Nebraska's defense, and it didn't show up. Not only did Nebraska's defense not show up, as has been chronicled by Sam McEwen, Connor Hayden, John Johnson, and probably others.
I saw a lot of people leaving early. It is what it is. It's kind of sad because all these Nebraska fans get amped up, get excited. A lot of people travel in for these games. And even though you play the toughest competition, the best teams, and it's exciting to go watch the best teams play, it's disheartening to continue to travel and come out for these big matchups when this is what keeps on happening. Not that it's a bad thing that it happened.
I don't know. There wasn't a lot of buzz around this game all week long. Maybe Nebraska knew something about its chances. Maybe they didn't like their chances. I'm not sure. But I didn't feel like Nebraska's emotional energy was where it needed to be to match Michigan going into this game. And I thought it showed early in the game. The Huskers were just flat. And you got to have more of an emotional...
Well, honestly, it's disappointing that in our 5th game of the year, we start out this game flat as hell. We've started out the last 2 games flat as hell, with no emotion, not much excitement of anything, except that those were lesser opponents that we could overcome in the end. And this one, there's no...
I remarked to my wife while we were watching the game that it just seemed like the crowd wasn't in it at all. There was times in there where they were just silent. I don't know that I've seen that at a Husker game, a home game, maybe ever, where the crowd was just silent early on in the game. By halftime, when the teams came out after halftime, they were showing some of the stands, and they shouldn't have, just half empty. But it was the players, it was the coaches, it was Matt Rule talking to sideline reporters, and it was even Matt Rule after the game.
I don't know that it was an intensity. I don't know. I still think our guys are trying to figure out if they're good enough to play, sometimes to play these teams. I didn't feel us necessarily, Steve, cutting loose and ripping and, going, attacking them. And, that's kind of where we have to get to be quite honest with you. I address the older guys after the game. I address the younger guys after the game because the younger guys will play these guys again. There's only one way to play these types of games and win these types of games, and that's to attack.
It wasn't just a bad game. It was a low energy game. And when you're playing a team like Michigan, you can't be low energy. You have to bring your A game. You got to do everything you can to win. And I don't think the team did that. They lost in every single facet of that game. There's nothing you can take away. I don't think you can watch the tape of that game and come away and have anything positive except for maybe Harburg. Harburg looked pretty good. I think he threw for 199 yards, which, hey, yeah, given he is Heinrich Harburg, and given we don't expect that, and given he was playing against Michigan, maybe not bad. But of course, in the final moments of the game, one more thing I have to say specifically about this game. Any positives you take away from the game happened for Nebraska in the second half. When Michigan had their second and third and fourth and 17th stringers in the game, they had 4 quarterbacks in that game. And the score was 45-7, and Nebraska only scored in the last moments on a guy running for like 190 yards, a guy who wasn't even a running back until 5 minutes before game time, I think. Someone I don't think anyone here has even heard of. And that was because, again, Nebraska was playing against the 7th level defensive guys. It was, by any metric, an absolute catastrophe if you're focused on this one game, which I am not. Now, let me talk to you about the offense for a moment. We'll come back to why I'm not focused on this game in a second. Let's go to the offense for just a moment. It may seem like Nebraska's not scoring a lot of points. It may seem that way. Now, if you watch my videos, I like to show you data and show the statistics about what's actually happening. And so you may say to yourself, it really feels like for the last year or so, Nebraska's not really scoring a lot. But is that true? Was this game an aberration, or was this part of a larger trend? Well, as it happens, I have an abacus, I got a big chief pad and crayons, and I got them out and I did a little mathematicals. And let me show you something. Look at the chart on the screen right now. That's a chart of Nebraska's average points per game all the way back to a very significant point in Nebraska's history. That's Nebraska's points per game back to Scott Frost's first season. Nebraska has gone from averaging 30 points a game to 18. And please look at the chart. It is downtown. It is like you ever seen that Price is Right game show where they've got the cliffhanger guy and he's going up and he's yodeling? What do they call that? Yodeling Sam or whatever it's called? Whatever the yodeling guy is, he climbs up and then he goes over and he falls off a cliff if you don't tell Bob Barker something about not spaying your gerbils.
Hey, right there. Now stop right there. Oh.
Whatever it is, that game with the guy falling off, that's what Nebraska's offense looks like in the last 5 years. It's not just Michigan. Some of y'all fans got to get with the program. I have been talking about this for the last year. And I want to be serious with you right now about the team. Some of y'all don't understand what it means to be a fan. I get people that talk about my videos and they say that I'm a homer or I'm delusional or whatever. Listen, I told you I thought Nebraska was going to have more wins than losses this year. I told you I thought they'd go to a bowl game. So when I come out and talk about Nebraska playing an opponent, if I think they're going to be winning more games than losing or going to a bowl game, which means you're going to have to win more games for the rest of the season, obviously, yeah, I'm going to sound positive because I told you before the year began what I thought. And some of y'all fans, I often wonder, and maybe some other folks who create content about Nebraska football can understand this, and maybe you can too. Leave me a thumbs up or a like or hit some sort of button or bell or ding a dong or whatever it takes if you agree with me on this. What are some fans even doing watching Nebraska football? What is with the negativity from some people? Just ripping down players and coaches and all that? Talking about firing Matt Rule and the coaching staff is trash and all this? Dude, we're talking about a team that was in a 20-year death spiral. And Matt Rule's done a very good job with this team. Unless you don't understand football, you make a comment about this staff isn't doing a good job. They're doing a great job. They're doing exactly what they said they were going to do. Michigan game notwithstanding. And I just think that some of you fans, you need to be more patient. Just chill out a minute. We went through the last 5 seasons of implosion. Let's go more than 5 games before we give up on the team in 2023. And that leads me to my final point. I know some of you young whippersnappers may not have kids yet, but if you are old enough to have kids that go from toddlers or infants and toddlers to teens and young adults, something you need to know about patience. And as it relates to the Nebraska team, it's kind of a good analogy here. And I hope you've got the patience enough to hear the next 1 minute or so I can make this analogy. When my oldest son was 3 or 4 months old, I was in my early 30s. And one night at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, he hadn't slept in about 2 or 3 days. My wife hadn't had any sleep, I hadn't had any sleep, he was crying and all that. And so I called my uncle at 3 or 4 in the morning who'd raised some kids, my cousins. I said, hey, you know, I haven't had any sleep for the last couple of days. What can I do to get my son to get to sleep so that my wife and I can get some sleep and we can all like feel normal at some point of the next day or two? Because not getting sleep with a crying baby, you don't know not getting sleep till it's a baby crying that's stopping you from not getting, or keeping you from getting sleep. And so my uncle said, Don, he said, I don't know when it's going to happen, but here's what I do know is going to happen. It's going to get better. You're going to get some sleep, maybe in 5-minute increments here and there. Your wife will get some sleep. Your son will quit crying, and eventually he'll get some sleep. You'll get some sleep, and then the times between not sleeping will get closer and closer together until finally you're getting a normal sleep again. Those days are coming. And you'll look back on these days and you won't even remember what this felt like. You'll remember it happened, but when the good times come, when everyone's sleeping, you won't even remember what this feels like. Now that seemed totally impossible to me, because what I felt like then was like a zombie, a non-thinking, non-sleeping zombie. Well, that's kind of like being a Husker fan. The analogy, I know, it's probably pretty obvious to you. We've all been sleepwalking through the team for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and it seems very impossible that the turn is here. And based on what we saw at Michigan, I understand you might be thinking that right now. Don't. Be patient. Be patient. And if you can't find the patience with the team, go have some kids. That'll help you be patient. And if you ever want to find out how to make $1 million, have some kids you don't expect. And maybe 6 months down the road, you will have found a way to get a fire lit underneath you, go start a business that makes millions of dollars, and everything will work out. And that's for another video. Thank you for watching. And as always, as I say, video after video after video, go big red.